in contrast to the traditional approach of acidifying the blood of the cow, which is the traditional way we control hypocalcemia, we cause a mild metabolic acidosis with anionic salts, etc., and activates the PTH hormone that removes calcium from the bone and replenishes the levels of calcium in blood. This approach, Exolate, is different. Is binding phosphorus.
All right, everyone, welcome to this episode of the Dairy Podcast Show. I'm your host for today, Gail Carpenter, and I'm joined by Miguel Morales from Protekta. Protekta. Oh, there's an extra T in there that I always leave out. Okay.
Which, by the way, I think that is important because we have been called Protekta, which is, it's not good. It causes mastitis, no treatment. So it's Protekta, like protecting. Yeah.
I guess I've never noticed that T that's kind of hiding behind the K there. Now I feel like I can't read very good. But Miguel's joining us today from Protekta. He works for Tech Services West, so Latin America and California. We're here to talk about calcium and hypocalcemia. But Miguel, before we get started, do you want to give us a little bit of background about who you are, where you came from, kind of how you got in the position that you're in now?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a veterinarian by training. Most of my career I spent with the Monsanto company. I was involved with BST. I started with them in 1990, which was 4 years before we launched the product in the United States, and I was based in Mexico. And then the company relocated me to Pennsylvania, where I was several years, and then to California. And then Elanco acquired the business from Monsanto, so I transferred with them. So overall, that was like 27 years of my life. Great experience. I know the product was controversial, if you wish, in some instances, but it was a learning experience. It was something new. It was a great experience. I wouldn't change it. After that, I kind of took an early retirement from Eli Lilly, from Elanco, and went to Chemin and then Simpro, more like in the nutrition space. And then I'm fortunate enough to have started with Protekta just a year ago, in December of last year. So I'm here. It's exciting because it's again something new. Reminds me of my time with Monsanto, where we were talking about something, a new way to do things, a new way to treat something, a new way to deal with stuff in dairy. So.
Typical fresh cow incidence of clinical hypocalcemia is 3 to 6%, while subclinical hypocalcemia affects 50% or more mature cows. Based on cutting-edge research, Exolete offers a new approach that is build effective and the ZDUs. For more information, visit www.protekta.com.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about that a little bit? What is new about what you've been working on?
Our product, Exolete, is designed to control hypocalcemia in dairy cows. And let me back for a second, saying, when the cow transitions from the dry off, the close-up pen to a new lactation, she has to put a lot of nutrients in milk. And one of them is calcium. And we have selected cows that produce a lot of milk. They could sustain several calves, not only one. And therefore, there's a huge influx of nutrients to sustain the newborn. And that is determined by, perpetuating the species. That is the priority for that cow in that moment is, make sure that baby is available, is viable and survives. Because of that, she puts a lot of calcium. When that happens, her blood calcium goes down, and if she's not able to balance that to keep it at a good level, she has issues. And because calcium is important for muscle contraction, the clinical manifestation of low calcium or hypocalcemia is what we call milk fever. It's a cow that is she's not able to walk because she cannot contract the muscle very well. her temperature goes down, which is kind of ironic that we call milk fever, and there's actually no fever. And actually, the temperature is lower than normal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that is the clinical manifestation of the cow that cannot walk. But beyond that, uh, hypocalcemia is also subclinical, and we call it a gateway disease because hypocalcemia, or cows with low calcium at calving, are more susceptible to other diseases. Mastitis, part of that is because the sphincter of the mammary gland is not contracting very well, so it opens the door to bacteria getting in, displays abomasum, and a series of other diseases, right? So calcium in the periparturient cow, in the cow that is around calving, is incredibly important. This approach, this product, is trying to controls that, or prevents hypocalcemia, the milk fever manifestation, but also the subclinical hypocalcemia. What is really new about it is that, in contrast to the traditional approach of acidifying the blood of the cow, which is the traditional way we control hypocalcemia, we cause a mild metabolic acidosis with anionic salts, etc., and activates the PTH hormone that removes calcium from the bone and replenishes the levels of calcium in blood. This approach, Exalate, is different. Is binding phosphorus. Now, we have known for many years that high phosphorus in the diet of transition cows actually causes more hypocalcemia, more milk fevers, more problems with calcium. But until recently, in the 2000s, we learned why that was happening. So, in a nutshell, instead of causing a mild metabolic acidosis, we are telling the cow, you have slightly low phosphorus in your blood. And in response, she activates more vitamin D in the kidney. And of course, vitamin D in the intestine causes more absorption of phosphate or phosphorus, but also calcium, right? Mm-hmm. And the other part of that is, at the end of the day, the cow will pull it from the bone. The bone is the most important reserve of minerals, calcium and phosphorus, and they are linked together in the matrix of that bone. So when she pulls phosphorus to compensate, she's putting calcium together with it. So indirectly, we are improving the level of calcium in the cow at calving. So that is what is new. That, like, oh, this is the way it is working, and is more the homeostasis of phosphorus that indirectly is improving the level of calcium at calving, mm-hmm. which is kind of a new thing,
I know it's not binding; it's binding phosphorus, you said, but it also almost reminds me of some of the low calcium diet strategies, in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. It is similar to that. It is telling the cow, oh, because you have a low level of something, you need to compensate. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, it was believed that this product was binding calcium, but we know now that is preferably binding phosphorus, right? Phosphate. In most of the phosphorus in the cow is going to be in the form of phosphate. So.
Yeah, I think I've seen it referred to as a calcium binder. I think maybe is that.
Yeah, and that was.
Or am I misremembering? Yeah,
you're absolutely right. That's the way it was conceived before, and they said, well, it seems like the mechanism of action is more through phosphorus. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, this hormone that they discovered is called FGF23, fibroblast growth factor 23, is a hormone that is actually in charge of the balance of phosphorus in the blood of the cow, and that is how this is really working through that mechanism of action. Is really preventing the absorption of phosphorus, and of course you want to have it in a moderate way. You want to do it only in the cluster of cows, only 14 to 21 days before calving, and you don't want to go very, very low. Phosphorus is very important for many functions in the cow, right? So you just want it slightly lower for a short period of time. You stop it at calving, boom, the cow recovers the phosphorus level, very, very quickly, and she goes on. So the beauty of this product is the response is incredibly consistent. The cows at calving have a very, very good level of calcium, and there's a lot less variation. So I have to use less calcium boluses, less treatments, less, um, IV calcium, etc. I have to treat less cows, but it's also that the cow is starting a lactation in a healthier way, right?
Yeah. Is it binding anything else? I know magnesium has been one that I've heard maybe a concern. Is it binding anything besides the phosphate?
That is a great question. That is an excellent question. It In theory, it could bind other ions in the rumen,
Hmm.
but it releases it because it's pH dependent. So
Okay.
when it binds phosphorus, it's going to be regardless of pH, and it's going to uh, form a bond that is very resistant that is very effective in binding phosphorus.
Hmm.
So the other minerals we have tested, trace minerals, for example, like selenium and zinc and things that are important, it's not binding those. It might be binding calcium in the rumen, but it's releasing it at a different pH. So at the end of the day, is not that.
Okay.
The magnesium is something interesting because in many studies, magnesium shows low in the cows treated with this product. But on the other hand, when a cow has hypocalcemia, she compensates and elevates magnesium. So
Mm.
it's maybe what we are seeing in those control studies is because there was less hypocalcemic cows, they have lower levels of magnesium. But in a nutshell, the right answer, the short answer should be, the levels of magnesium and in research, they stay within the normal range. In a recent study from University of Wisconsin, those levels show in where you would expect them. So it's not like something that you have to worry about, like, oh, is binding other minerals or causing other issues, right?
Gotcha.
This is very selective. It is very effective in binding phosphate in the rumen.
So is there anything you need to be thinking about if you're feeding this product in terms of how you're balancing your minerals? Is there anything you need to do differently? I mean, obviously you're not feeding a DCAD, but beyond that, is there anything else to think about when you're balancing a dry cow diet with XLIT?
The short answer is no. I mean, probably the number one thing that you should pay attention to, the most important one would be have a decent level of phosphorus, not too
Mm.
high, not incredibly low. And by that, I mean maybe between 0.32% in the diet to 0.39. So if it is very, very high, you could say, well, I could add more of their product. Well, no. I mean, I think I can lower it a little bit and make it more manageable. Uh,
Hmm.
Other than that, having a good level of magnesium and just formulating for everything else like you would without it. Um, Part of the difference with this product is that you don't have to worry about potassium, for example. You don't have to
Mm.
worry about low potassium in your hay or products like that because you're not playing with other ions, right?
Right.
Like in a traditional negative decad approach or acidification approach. With this, really, you're playing with phosphorus mainly.
Hmm.
So as long as phosphorus is in a reasonable level, if it is very low, you don't need this product. Um, but it's almost impossible to accomplish that. But if it is too high, it's like, well, maybe you can lower it a little bit. Maybe you can decide to replace a little bit of the canola with something else, another source of protein to lower your phosphorus, to have it in a more manageable way. So
Yeah.
it gives you flexibility in what you can use. You can use very high quality hay and small grains, etc. But to answer your question, you just balance your diet the best you can for what you are trying to accomplish. Pay attention to phosphorus, and pretty much that's it. We have general guidelines, but are very general. It's just keep. We recommend magnesium higher than zero point 0.4, maybe 0.42 or so, 0.45 in the diet. Anything else is just the general guidelines of maybe 1,200 grams of metabolizable protein in those cows.
Hmm.
It's just very, in a nutshell, is having a good diet for those class of cows based on your philosophy and your approach, and then just pay attention to phosphorus, and this product will work just fine.
And you don't recommend feeding it longer than 21 days? Is that what I heard you say?
Reality is, you can feed it, say, 10, 14 days.
Uh-huh.
But for practical purposes,
Right.
we keep cows in the close-up maybe 21 days. So if my goal is 21 days and my average is 17 days, that is perfect.
Okay.
What we want to avoid is cows that are exposed to the product very long, let's say 40 days,
Okay.
or maybe just if you don't have a cluster pen and you just have one group of dry cows, this is not a good strategy because then I'm going to keep phosphorus low for very long. We don't want that, right? Other than that is like just have just keep it in a reasonable way to so 21 days, maybe 14 to 20 something days. Our recommendation is 14 to 21 days, but we know that in some cases it's going to be a little longer than that. But if you avoid being longer than 30 days or something, you're going to be fine.
Right. Yeah, some cows calve early, some cows calve late. It's hard to hit that.
Yeah,
You're not going to know, like, yes, I hit 14 days on every single one. Yeah.
They didn't read the message like, this is the way, you told me you were going to count this day.
I always tell my students cows can't read, so they don't know, like, what they're supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't know how they're supposed to respond or when they're supposed to calve or anything like that. So, what about on the other side? What about a minimum? Is there, what's the minimum number of days it needs to be fed to be effective? I know we're not keeping cows in the close-up pen for 3 days, for example, but, if cows calve early or off schedule, if you're kind of trying to push it to a lower end, what would be the minimum time you'd recommend feeding?
Probably 10 days.
10?
Maybe even a little less than that, but you want them to be eating, consuming the product. The effect is quite fast,
Mm-hmm.
but you want them probably 7-10 days minimum.
Yeah. Okay.
21 days. So other than that, really, just the common sense things like have a diet that the cow cannot sort very much because that sip through everything. So it's just common sense. Have a good delivery, that the cow has a consistent intake of the product. Otherwise, it won't work. So but really, 10 days, 14 days is just fine.
Visit Schooler at World Ag Expo in February and discover an extensive portfolio of product options to fit the unique needs of your dairy operation. A trusted partner in feed solutions, you can count on the agility and expertise of Schooler to deliver high-quality feed ingredients when and where you need them. Find Schooler at World Ag Expo booths 6614 and 6615. Reliable and on-trend ingredients for feed rations that fit your needs. Learn more at schooler.com/feed. That's SCOULAR.com/feed.
I know with anionic diets, a lot of times, or anionic salts, we have palatability concerns, or if the diet's over-acidified, we have feed intake concerns. Is there anything like that to be concerned about with Exolite?
Our recommendation, and this has been through learning and evolving this knowledge, we recommend to use this product based on two things: the intake level of the cows and the level of phosphorus in the diet. So if you tell me my cow is eating this many pounds of dry matter and the level of phosphorus in the diet is 0.34, I can tell you, okay, you should be feeding this much. When you do that, not only is more cost efficient, but you're not giving more than you need, and intake stays very, very, very good. So you have probably even better intake. Now, if I overfeed it, let's say the level is too high, like in some of the studies, for example, there was a blanket dose. For every cow, let's give a pound, or let's give 500 grams, or whatever. And in some of those cases, we actually see a depression in intake. The way to avoid that is let's just give the cow what she really needs, right? So let's estimate the intake for that group of cows and how much phosphorus there is in the diet, and that determines how much of the product you should consume. And if you do that, then you pretty much eliminate the problems with intake.
Okay.
So it's not a palatability issue, but more like let's don't give more than they need, because low phosphorus in animals, not only cows but in general, will cause a depression in intake. So you don't want to have it very low. You just want to give it enough and short enough, and that's it.
Yeah. It seems like everything we do with dry cows is kind of just this very minute balancing act. And you're kind of balancing on a hair.
That's true. That's true. One thing though that I would say, I would quote what somebody told me once at a dairy, which was, um, it seems like the negative decat diets are finicky.
Mm,
You know, something changes, boom. There's everything is out of control. This approach, um, is more forgiving, but it's not magic.
yeah.
You're absolutely right. You have to balance. You have to use common sense, right? You don't want to be more. You don't want to be below. You just want to have it right what it is, right?
It's not a magic bullet. I think a lot of times we're looking for in dairy management, whether it's, robots or a product that we feed or an additive or a corn silage hybrid, whatever. It seems like you're always hopeful that there's going to be a magic bullet, and it's never there. You still have to always manage your cows.
Absolutely.
You can't stop doing that no matter what. And yeah, I think it sounds like this is much like everything else, where you have to. It's not an easy way out, but it can be effective.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else that you think we missed or we need to chat about before we move on to our three questions that all our guests get?
No, I think you frame it very well. I think this is a very, very interesting approach. I think it will bring tremendous benefits. I think there's a space for this approach in the dairy industry. Of course, there's people who manage their negative decat or acidification approach very well. Uh,
Mm,
but there's people where this could be a very, very good approach. You don't need to check urine pH because you're not acidifying anything. It's a very, very, very good approach. I think it's a very good management tool. But like you said, it's not magic. It's you have to manage it. You have to have common sense and give those cows what they need.
yeah, yeah. If people want to find more information, where should they go?
They should probably go to our site, to protekta.com, or reach out to us. We will send the information, and there's published information. There's peer review articles, but we can't provide any of that. So
Okay.
It's time for our famous three. Introducing Ultrasorb R3.0, Volac's comprehensive and complete solution to reduce the negative impact of naturally occurring toxins on ruminants. Ultrasorb R3.0 is a species-specific product designed to mitigate the effects of specific mycotoxins in the gastrointestinal tract of ruminants. Ultrasorb R3.0 also offers lipopolysaccharides binding capabilities. Endotoxins such as LPS can contribute to inflammation in ruminants, with energy partitioned to mount an immune response instead of production. Learn more about Ultrasorb R3.0 at volac.com.
Well, with that, we'll hop into our three questions that all of our guests get. And these. The first one is, what is your favorite dairy-related book or resource?
I'm going to be a little biased, but my my favorite resource would be the veterinary clinic's food animal practice.
Okay.
The reason I like it is more like a review always. So there are three issues in a year, and each issue covers a specific topic, and then all the papers are not only one article, but it's really a review. So it's like getting access to a bunch of information that the expert in that area is compiling. So I like that approach very much.
Yeah. What did you say it was called?
The veterinary clinics of North America,
Okay.
food animal practice.
All right. I think that's might be the first time I've heard of that. So I'll have to check it out. That sounds really great.
I love
Three
it.
times a year, you said?
Yeah,
I like things that are easy to stay on top of. Yeah.
it's three issues a year, and you can access it online too. But it's you get the hardcover paper.
Oh, you still get hard copies.
Yeah,
Don't know the last time I've read a hard copy of a journal.
No, I love it because I like it, but you have access online too. So
All right, our second question. What is your favorite non-dairy related book or resource?
oh, that is a very tough one because I think I have many different favorite books, but I would say, and you probably will laugh at this, but I would say that the Sherlock Holmes series is something
Oh,
that I love and something that I have read since I was a young kid, right?
yeah.
But part of the reason is in one of the stories, um, Sherlock Holmes describes the ideal detective.
Mm,
And if I remember correctly, it was three things. And one was observation,
mm-hmm,
the other one was intuition, so connecting the dots.
mm-hmm.
And then the third one was knowledge.
Ah,
And I remember when I read it, I said, well, that describes the ideal clinician in my mind.
yeah.
But to me, it expands to a consulting, support person in a dairy is observe, be intuitive enough to connect the dots, and then have as much knowledge so that you can connect something and it makes sense of it. So to me, I said like, oh, I would strive to be a Sherlock Holmes in dairy farms.
I love that.
Because of that, I really like it. So
I love that. I think I'm going to have to share that with my Dairy Challenge students. I think that's brilliant.
I have used that with Dairy Challenge students. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I will send you the quote. Absolutely.
All right. Perfect. Did you watch the BBC series Sherlock?
No, I just watched a little bit of one of the episodes and I said, oh, I need to do this, but I haven't.
Yep.
I haven't. No,
I recommend. Yes.
I will.
All right. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but our last question is, what do you think sets successful dairy professionals apart from those who are not successful?
Okay, so I think one of those things could be this. Could be like,
Mm-hmm.
let's observe, let's analyze the records, let's listen to the cow, let's connect the dots and say this is happening because of this. I've noticed, and I'm guilty of this. You go to a dairy with a preconceived notion of what you're expecting to find,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are trying to justify what you had in the first place. And then you have
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of that and say, let me observe, and then I will come to a conclusion, right? So I think that could probably set people apart, and just the knowledge part is the hard one because it's like, okay, I need to get deeper and deeper, and that never ends. You cannot be
Right.
But anyway, so I think that
Lifelong learning.
exactly. So that would be one thing, and in general terms, I would say, in addition to that, the ability to pay attention to detail,
Yep.
and then at the same time be able to separate yourself and see the big picture.
Yeah.
So I think oftentimes because of our personal preferences, we pay a lot of attention to detail and we lose the forest.
Yep.
And vice versa. We could be like just big picture and we never implement something because the idea is really good, but it's like, how do we implement it in the dairy? So I think the ability to try to combine those two things, I think, sets people apart.
Well, especially when we're talking about something like dry cows, where it can come down to like a fraction of a percentage of a mineral, but you also can't forget how that fits into the management system too. I think that's, yeah.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I think that's a phenomenal note to end on. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for this discussion. Really enjoyed the opportunity to learn more. And for those listening, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Dairy Podcast Show.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing this space with me.